Welcome to Creating Home Together in the DMV, an online conversation centered around welcoming refugees and immigrants into their new communities. This event is part of the larger celebration of Welcoming Week, an initiative led by Welcoming America, which brings together organizations and community members in the spirit of building strong connections and affirming the importance of welcoming and inclusive places in achieving collective prosperity. My name is Netra Anand, and I will be your moderator for tonight's panel. I am one of the Refugee Health Liaisons at Lutheran Social Services of the National Capital Area, or LSSNCA. LSSNCA works to welcome, resettle, and empower refugees and other immigrants in the DMV area. We offer a variety of resettlement services like employment guidance and assistance with accessing healthcare, as well as advocate on behalf of our vibrant refugee community. Now I'll introduce our four panelists for this evening. First off, we have Shelby Kruzek. Shelby is the Community Relations Director for Refugee and Immigrant Services with LSSNCA. Prior to joining LSS, Shelby worked with refugee populations in the community for several years as a volunteer. Shelby is passionate about the intersections of social sciences research and practice, and engaging the community and expanding educational opportunities for individuals with a displaced background. Next, we have Ronate Asirwadam. Ronate is the Director for Advocacy at Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, or LIRS for short. Prior to joining LIRS, Ronate was the Senior Political Advisor for the Global Campaign for Education. She has 10 years of experience lobbying and advocating on Capitol Hill and has also advocated with the United Nations in New York and Geneva. Nadia Fitzcharles is the Director of Ministries for Children, Youth, Families, and Community at Peace Lutheran Church in Alexandria, Virginia. She holds particular interest in conversations around community building, initiatives that promote cultural awareness and conversations, and programs that welcome new neighbors to the United States. And then we have Laura Thompson-Osuri. Laura is the Executive Director and founder of Homes Not Borders, an organization that helps new refugees feel at home in the DC area. Prior to that, Laura was the volunteer lead at Homes Not Borders' predecessor under the National Community Church's Refugee Care Ministry. Laura is also the co-founder of DC's street newspaper, Street Sense, and helped grow it from a project of the National Coalition of the Homeless to its own nonprofit organization with $250,000 in revenue, serving more than 70 homeless individuals.
Well, LSS works with within the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program to resettle refugees in the DMV. So after a refugee or refugee family is selected and vetted for third country resettlement by the United Nations, our parent agency, Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, will match a case with one of our local offices in Hyattsville, Maryland, Fairfax, Virginia, or Dale City, Virginia, our offices there. So we provide a wide range of core services to families, but what I'm going to do is highlight three big ones. Many of our clients receive what we call reception and placement services, which is what I like to call the bread and butter of refugee resettlement. So through reception and placement, a client or family is matched with a case manager and provided 3 months of core services. And so this includes a home setup, a health screening, enrolling kids in school, enrolling parents in ESL, enrolling them in food stamps and other benefits, and then doing cultural orientation and pre-employment training, which are really key to these services. As part of our employment programs, refugees can receive intensive employment support for up to 6 months, and then ongoing employment services for up to 5 years. So these employment services range from job search and resume assistance to interview prep and adjustment to U.S. work culture. We really promote early self-sufficiency for our families and helping them help themselves by getting a job as quickly as possible. And so our job developer team does a really amazing job to partner with local employers for recruitment and really help identify professional development opportunities and re-credentialing and training opportunities for clients based on their goals and needs. And then lastly, something I really am excited about as something that we do as an agency is in addition to providing health services and school support for families, we have mentoring programs. So we have family mentoring and youth mentoring programs, which really engage volunteers in walking alongside our refugee families. Virtually now, so virtually walking alongside them, but really just helping them navigate their new communities. And it's a really special way to make clients feel at home and adjust to their new lives here, and really just get hands-on support for their employment goals and for other goals that they might have, like ESL, like English conversation practice, and really just helping them adjust as families here. Who are the clients that are coming to the DMV? So recently LSS has resettled clients from Afghanistan, Iran, El Salvador, and a few countries in Latin America and Africa. The majority of our clients are actually from Afghanistan on a special immigrant visa, SIV, so that we refer to them as SIV holders. And they've served our US government or alongside our armed forces in some capacity, and whose lives and families are now threatened because of that work. So there are many ways to get involved in supporting our refugee clients, and it really depends on what you're interested in and how you'd like to really dedicate your time and resources and talent. So if you want a more personal experience in working directly with clients, you can always sign up to be a youth mentor or a family mentor or an employment coach. Or now through our new virtual tutoring program, folks can sign up to be tutors or conversation partners for ESL. And I know Nadia will speak to some of those ways as well, and Laura. Folks can also get involved through outreach and programming and volunteer more behind the scenes in supporting our resettlement work, like blogging or coordinating volunteer programs. We always welcome donations, so organizing a donation drive with family and friends can be a great way to volunteer. For example, household items are really helpful for a new family's apartment. Laptops are an invaluable tool for their self-sufficiency, and toys and books are a great way to help kids feel engaged and stay engaged in learning, and just help the whole family feel welcome. We're doing a series of school supply drives right now. We have an upcoming winter coat drive pretty soon. People can always give towards our resettlement work. There's an easy way to give online, and that goes sometimes directly to families who have been most impacted by COVID with employment. And last but not least, our Good Neighbor Partner Program, we call it GNP, is our refugee co-sponsorship program. And that's where a group of people, maybe in a faith congregation or a group of, or like an organization or a family, can be matched with a refugee family to provide a home setup and adjustment support for up to 6 months or 1 year. And that's really, really special. And I know Laura will speak to a little bit of the home setup and why that's important and so special. One more thing, volunteer opportunities are all virtual or hybrid right now. And so it's a really, really special way to be able to continue serving and welcoming refugees even during COVID. So even our GMP program can have virtual options, maintaining social distancing guidelines and everything during this time.
So I would like to acknowledge, as you pointed out, ACA is a big part of this endeavor as well. So I am on staff at Peace Lutheran Church, and the planning team for Homework Club consists of members from ACA churches, John Calvin Presbyterian, Ravensworth Baptist, of course Peace, and our partner church in the community, which is Little River United Church of Christ. So inspiration, I think all of us probably on the planning team will say something different about our personal inspiration. For me personally, it came from meeting many incredibly inspiring and resilient people who are living as refugees in Cairo. They shared their experiences of life and of God with me, and I came back to the States, this is a few summers ago, feeling compelled to do more than write a paper about the life-changing encounters I had there. So inspiration also came when Carol, one of our planning team members, stood up in an ACA meeting and said, I just heard this amazing presentation from LSS about the Good Neighbor program. Does anyone want to find out how to get involved? So I stood up, and that kind of started that. And then we had friends from John Calvin and Ravensworth and Little River United Church of Christ join us as well. So I think, as I said, for all of us, we were each inspired in our own way to respond to the experience of refugees and recent immigrants, and that came to be expressed through Homework Club. So Homework Club is a 2-generational program where we use a model of kind of 2-generational programming. So we help school-age children with homework help, and then also do crafts and stories with younger siblings, while also working with parents on anything from English language practice to job searching help and assistance, or answering questions, and even some driving lessons in the Peace parking lot. It is hosted at Peace. So a huge part of that, and also we do offer transportation help to families that need it. And so a huge part of even the transportation piece and kind of some of the informal gathering time are the friendships that extended well beyond the hour-and-a-half time frame of Homework Club on a Saturday morning. And so though it's called Homework Club, and of course helping with homework and practicing reading, math help, math is a huge thing. I think we all of the volunteers and all of us on the planning team learned very quickly how much middle and high school math we had forgotten. And it was very much a learning process, because this was a new kind of program in partnering with LSS. I think there was a pilot at another church, and for whatever reason that didn't work out. So one of our planning team members, Janet, said, well, we're kind of building this plane as we fly it, which I think was a fitting way to think about it. But again, the relationships and practicing what welcome means and encouraging cultural understanding and exchange are big pieces, as well as the academic help. So, of course, everything, like everyone else, we weren't able to meet in person anymore when the pandemic hit. But our planning team has been meeting pretty frequently to plan for the fall, hopefully an in-person kind of celebration at some point, just for the outdoors and socially distanced, but just for that connection piece. And then as well as some virtual tutoring or gathering opportunities as well. We're working on those things. Importantly, though, a more recent thing is that we began contract work with two adults from the Homework Club community, who have been able to help with designing a Homework Club brochure in both English and Dari. Also, they have started an ESOL class as well as an English conversation group, and that just started a few weeks ago, but it's been going really well. And they are able, because they're already within and connected to the community, they're able to help with understanding and responding to the needs of families. So lastly, I will say we don't have a formal evaluation system with the schools in place in terms of the homework help, but we have asked for feedback from volunteers and families, and try to keep kind of a very open ethos of communication. And the feedback that we have received has been inspiring in and of itself. A child in one of the families who began attending Homework Club when we first started told the volunteer who picked his family up that he and his siblings woke up early every Saturday we had Homework Club because they were so excited. Another child would come early to Homework Club, and he would either help set up, or he'd start reading or get his homework out. And I would occasionally see him at the cafeteria of the elementary school near Peace, where I sometimes volunteer, and his face would light up, and he would tell his friends, he'd be excited to tell his friends that he knows me from that homework thing at the church. So those little pieces of joy were also very affirming and inspiring. And to conclude, I hope what I have conveyed is that people were and are the inspiration, whether they are braving a new and strange place with tenacity and hope, or they're volunteering their time on a Saturday morning, or learning about a culture and language that is different from their own. All of that was inspiration for Homework Club.
Homes Not Borders mission, as you mentioned, is to make refugees and SIVs and asylum seekers feel at home when they come to the United States. And we got our start, as was mentioned in my bio, we were actually a project, or a mission, I guess, of National Community Church. And I just kind of happened into volunteering for that about almost 4 years ago now. They started kind of a refugee care mission. And this was back when when the onslaught of Syrian refugees were coming to the country and stuff like that. Anyways, and so they started that, and my kind of job or volunteer was going to the agencies. Besides LSS, there's 2 other resettlement agencies in the DC area, ECDC, and then IRC, International Rescue Committee. I forgot what it meant. So we went to all 3 of them and kind of asked what they need help with, and what we got back from them is that they need help with actually setting up the home, the physical home for refugees when they arrive. And for anybody who doesn't know, it's required by State Department mandate that refugees have certain items ready to go in a home, ready for them when they arrive here. And the list is pretty basic. Like if there's 4 people, they need 4 plates and 4 forks and, basic things like that, just a table and chairs and a couch. So we took this over, started with a group of volunteers through the church, kind of providing the extra items, kitchen items and beddings and toys. And then eventually within a year, we started kind of providing the entire home setup from all the major furniture. Sometimes we didn't provide the mattresses, but other than that, we provide everything else. And we started kind of easing into all the resettlement agencies. And now we work with all 3 of the resettlement agencies, providing home setup. So we get a call or email from Shelby saying, hey, we got a family arriving. Can you provide housing? Can you provide, furnishings for this family? And most of the time, we've been able to do that. So that's fortunate. And we love to do it. We have a great group of volunteers. We kind of plan it normally. So we set up on Mondays and everybody's making themselves available. I mean, with COVID, the whole refugee arrival stopped for about 6 weeks. And during that time, we did still help LSS and dropped off stuff to SIVs that had arrived and kind of did these curbside drop off when things were really uncertain. And now we have a core of volunteers that come and with their masks and gloves and help set up the apartments still when people are arriving. Just did one on Monday, and I think that was for IRC. Was that for LSS? Was that for you guys? No, that wasn't. It was for IRC. Sorry. Anyways, but we're doing them, still doing them. So in the last year, in 2019, we set up homes for 87 families. And so we're happy about that. And then so anyways, with all the home setup stuff, we spun off into our own nonprofit and called ourselves Homes Not Borders about a year, and it was June of 2019, so a year and a couple months ago. And we also, we've also heard the need for career kind of development and just career options. So we started 2 programs. One is a carpentry training program, but it quickly got shut down because of COVID. And I see Eric there on the screen that is helping us with it. But we're determined to keep it up, and we're gonna take it on the road. And it just kind of fits with what we're doing because we get a lot of furniture in and a lot of things we can kind of wood that we can work with, tables with broken legs that people can refinish and sell and stuff. So we're trying to train refugees and SIVs kind of in that area. And then we're also just with in, I guess it was maybe May, we launched our career mentoring program. And it's for, as Shelby mentioned, most people that arrive are SIVs in this area, and they usually have advanced degrees in finance and, I can't think of any other areas. And so they speak English quite well, and they just kind of need in the industry. So we're trying to partner them with people in their industry, an accountant with an accountant, somebody, that's in procurement with somebody in procurement, and kind of do that kind of partnership. So we just started that as well. So that's what we're doing. And we got a handful of mentors and mentees involved right now. So we need volunteers. We always need volunteers to help us setting up the homes. We need volunteers with helping to collect donations as well. And then we need volunteers in career mentoring. If you are in sort of any of the development field, have you worked with USAID or the World Bank, you know, or in finance, or we've had a couple of people want to do tech as well. We definitely need career mentors for that. And then if you're into carpentry, we could always use some more people to help with that, helping with teaching or just helping kind of get things set up. And then we also just need donations of, you know, of Shelby said, same thing, furniture, household items, those kind of items. And just asking that you kind of donate with dignity. You know, if the couch has a stain or a rip, we don't really want it, but you know, if it has, you know, if so you pass it along to your, you know, friend or neighbor, then definitely pass it along to us as well. So.
The biggest issue now, or the biggest priority, is making sure that refugees can come into the US. So at this time is the time that we do a lot of advocacy to ensure the presidential determination for refugees is at a high number. In advocacy speak, we call it robust. But for all of you who might not know, the presidential determination for refugees happens every year. It is by law. The president has to declare the amount of refugees that will be allowed into the US for that particular year. By law, also, the president has to consult with Congress, so with the judiciary committees of basically the heads of the judiciary committee in the House and Senate, as well as the immigration subcommittee heads in the House and Senate, so 8 people basically. And this happens usually every year. Unfortunately, the last, so FY20, which would end in September 30th, for that year, we have had the lowest presidential determination, as you all know, of 18,000. It's very low. It is the lowest. Before this, the year before this, we had 45,000. So from 45,000 to 18. So the president usually has to, you know, make this announcement by October 1st, which then provides the funds to support both all resettlement agencies and all resettlement support, even like from resettlement agencies to organizations like LSSNCA. That determination determines the funding for that. Unless that happens, there is no, refugees cannot come. Whether there's COVID or no COVID, refugees cannot come to the US at all. And then there is also no funding for that support system. So right now, the focus is on making sure that the federal government, the president, the federal government, and others also know that there are lots of citizens. There are citizens of the US, there are all of us who really want refugees to come, and that this determination must be made. One of the ways, so other than these 8 people I spoke about and the president, one of the ways that we are working to get the support for this presidential determination is to push local, state and local government members, so mayors, state representatives, etc., to have a letter for them to push for this consultations to happen. Usually not last year, but the year before that, and usually before the year before that, the consultations start happening now, because this determination has to be announced in October, but last year it was announced in November. So the whole push at this point is to make sure that everybody knows that there are Americans who want the refugees to come, and to push that, especially through elected mayors. So right now, as of today, something that you all can do right now, and I can maybe put it in the chat function, is to push your mayors and your local state representatives to get on this letter to the Congress, to the Judiciary Committee members, as well as the president. And so the president's representative in these negotiations is the Secretary of State, Mr. Pompeo. So it's to them to make sure that yes, we are saying that refugees are welcome, we the citizens of this country, and we want them to have this determination. So, and for all of us in the DMV area, this letter has been open for a while. We have almost got 500 state and local officials from around the country. But the one person that we have not got on this letter is Mayor Bowser. So I would ask you all to, make that push. It's going to close tomorrow. So please tonight, email Mayor Bowser, and hopefully we will get that letter done. And then from there, we will take it. That is the biggest thing that we're working on, obviously, to make sure this happens next year and refugees do come next year. The other advocacy priorities is to ensure that there is funding, especially state and local funding for issues for refugees who are affected with COVID, or not with COVID, but because of the COVID pandemic. So to make sure that some of the funding that we get is extended, especially for refugees, for housing, etc. This is something that we want to program. Right now you have a 90-day period where refugees get funding, but if you want to make sure that they have a longer period, because refugees, like everyone else, are facing unemployment, getting hard to find jobs, etc. And so they need that funding as well. So that's the other thing that we are mostly focusing on COVID-related ones, and to also make sure that everyone can get testing and treatment, regardless of immigration status. That is what we're working on now, and I will send it back to Nature.
So I think of this question kind of in three different ways, kind of in like three co-concentric circles. So like on a personal level, I think it's really important to welcome refugees because it is really rewarding personally and really inspiring to hear so many stories of resilience and just to be able to get to know refugee families and to support them and welcome them in different ways. This can involve stepping outside your comfort zone a little bit sometimes, being open-minded, being willing to grow and learn. And I think that is really personally important. I think in terms of like community, many people who have grown up in one country can sometimes take for granted the importance of having family and friends to rely on, so like a network of community support, having like a social fabric to feel comfortable in. And so, as members of communities in their home countries themselves, refugees are uprooted from that social fabric and are displaced and resettled into our DMV community. And so I think as the DMV community and in our own local neighborhoods, it's really important to remember that that way to be like neighborly and to be, just kind to these newcomers. But then also on a like macro level, and I think Nadia touched on this a little bit before, but I think welcoming refugees helps remind us of our shared humanity and just how we all want a bright future and how we all want a place to call home. And so I think current statistics say there's almost 80 million displaced people in the world today, and sadly that number is growing. And so I think welcoming refugees is one of the most special and human things that we can do today.
I would agree with everything Shelby said, and I don't mean to it seems simple to say, but it's also profound, and it can mean profound changes or, as Shelby mentioned, stepping out of our own comfort zones. But because I think it's important for us to welcome refugees because it is the good and right thing for us to do, whether we understand that from a faith perspective or because we recognize or because we recognize the inherent dignity of each and every person. I think any which way I can understand that we can come from it is a good thing to do. And actually, I in preparing, I have to write stuff down because otherwise I can go on down many rabbit holes, as anyone who knows me more than 10 minutes can tell you. I actually asked my 10-year-old son why it is important for us to welcome refugees, and he came to probably all but one, maybe two homework clubs on Saturday mornings with me, helped set up, sometimes grumbling, but did it, and I think he learned a lot. So I'd actually like to read you his answer. It's not very long. So he said, it's important because they're coming from out of the country. They may be scared because this is a new country. They don't speak the language sometimes, so it's hard to get jobs and people have to provide for their family. For kids, they had to leave their friends. They might be feeling lonely because they just moved to the country and they might have had to leave their country in a hurry, and they would want to feel welcomed here. So I think an important part of welcoming refugees and welcoming as well as the neighbor 10 doors down who we think we have nothing in common with. I think it's an important practice and of welcome and hospitality also to teach and show young people, our kids and youth, and we have a couple of youth who come to Homework Club as well. And this becomes a way of being and a way of life rather than this thing we do sometimes.
With Homes Not Borders, we've really gotten to know the refugee and SIV community, and some of them help with setting up now, and we're getting some to help make masks, and they're just such wonderful people. I mean, just to add the richness to the U.S., to the culture. I mean, that's one reason alone to welcome refugees. I mean, and also it's just, it makes me crazy that welcoming, accepting refugees has become a political issue. It should be a human issue. And it's just the right thing to do, as Nadia said. As was mentioned, I worked with the homeless individuals prior to kind of changing up sort of to working with the refugee population. But I like to point out that there are similar, because refugees are the most homeless. I mean, they don't have a homeland. They are really literally homeless. And it just, to not offer your home to somebody that doesn't have any, not offering your homeland to them, it just seems crazy to me, and it just is the right thing to do. And everybody needs to kind of get that mindset.
I think the main thing is to be because we welcome refugees because of who we are. I think we have to understand that this is an American thing, American value, to welcome refugees. And I know that it brings a lot of us great joy to do that. Just to, as a bit of background, so I am an asylum seeker. I sought asylum 10 years ago in this country. And I've got citizenship now for 3 years. And so, it is very inspiring to hear you all speak, and I feel very welcome, especially because given as Laura was saying, the rhetoric sometimes really gets to you. But as much as I came, and there was asylum seekers, as you all know, don't have the support as this, but it was friends and people who just randomly met me, who would then support me and who have welcomed me. And this is why 10 years from now I can talk about the Congress like I know it by heart, the political system. But I think the main thing about the reason that America is America is because it has this value of welcoming people, and that is something that must be protected and nurtured and brought about. And that's why I think that we should welcome refugees. So one of the best ways, I think still, especially for refugees, in terms of how are they vetted, etc., is to point people to the resources out there. And the biggest resource actually is the State Department, which actually tells you the steps that refugees go through in terms of the vetting, in terms of the security and all of the organizations involved, etc. And of course, then in organizations, all the resettlement organizations do have some of that information, and the Migration Policy Institute, would have the institute of how they benefit the community, how how much they contribute to the economy. Those kinds of statistics you can find from like the Migration Policy Institute has great statistics. I think what is difficult is like to have it all in one place and like put it in sort of a succinct way, and then maybe that's something that organizations such as mine, as LIRS, we can try to do that and put that on the website. But I think also one of the things is that once we have this information, we should not forget that this is a constant thing, because it's like, oh, why don't you know this? Why? I have spoken about this before, but for each person, the best way to take away the misinformation is to keep repeating it once you find the information.
And I think personal connections can go a long way as well. Personal stories. So, I think it can be more difficult to maintain such an aggressive stance towards refugees if you meet a refugee family and get to know them and hear their story and just start talking to them and learning. And so I think that personal piece is missing from a lot of the social media and kind of some of the public discourse around just what has become a very polarized issue. So I think we try to have a lot of like personal stories on our website and on social media, and faces can go a long way. But I think that firsthand experience I think is key to the conversation as well.
But maybe suggesting, again, if it depends on the context of the relationship, but saying, why don't you follow LSS's work or check out their Facebook page? Or I'm thinking of the Nova Friends of Refugees group. They have this amazing annual One Journey Festival, which highlights refugee creative initiatives and like dances and food. And it's a wonderful way, it's a one-day event. It's a wonderful way to, as Shelby said, get the kind of personal, the stories and the personal narratives behind these numbers that are so easy to skew.